What's going on, everybody? What's up, Bobby?
What's up, Sheets?
What's going on, man?
Oh, not much.
I think we're live. I think it's running.
Yeah, we usually just start it and stay in the background, but when you come
okay.
in, you always just come in full go. So I figured I'd just join you.
Okay.
I'm just editing the title, and he had a week 18 thumbnail on there, so I'm flopping that around.
It is week 18. No, it's week 18. No, it's week 17. Oh, my bad.
It's hard to lose track. I'm losing track too.
I'm just full go through it all mode. So what's up, guys? How's your New Year's Eve going so far?
Good.
Yeah, happy New Year's to all you guys in chat. Good to see everybody. We got everything together now. This is a wild slate. There's so many plays. There's so many options, and I did max enter today in the $20, so I'm going to go for it, and hopefully be $1 million richer. The day is over. I saw the Sheets. Nice job. You won the satellite to the other big one today, so I'm sure you're playing a little bit more.
No, I'm not, and I'm going to tell you why.
Go ahead.
Well, it was an NBA satellite, and I won I won my satellite really, really quick, easily, and I didn't find the results until I got back. I got back last night and saw that I won. I woke up this morning and the thing was sold out.
What is that?
Ridiculous, right?
That's ridiculous.
I emailed them and I said, you probably shouldn't run a satellite for something if you can't let the people play in it. What other options do I have? And because the ticket expires January 3rd.
So what did they say? Nothing yet?
They just credited me $2,200. I mean, it's fine,
that's annoying though.
I noticed.
I would have even taken a seat. I would have even taken the ticket if they had another $2,200 in the NBA. Honestly, considering, and this is another story. Considering I did win it in the NBA, I wouldn't really want to complain. But
but man, that's weird.
I was kind of into it. I was kind of into playing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would have had to figure out who to play though.
Yeah, no, this is the hard part. It's actually much easier, I think, as a scripting slate than it is as a building slate, because I feel like I'm leaving like 7,000 different possible plays at the same price out every time. Like all the 3K guys I have in the same, I just don't have a huge difference in a lot of them, and I'm just sort of forcing myself into making some builds.
Before we get into it, is there any pending injury news that's really an issue?
I just don't know if we can even ask that question because, like, it's these weeks. I mean, this is not the last week of the season anymore. When it used to be, there would be so much late stuff, and we just wouldn't have any idea. But I don't have anything that I feel. I mean,
like, is Michael Pittman legit questionable or no?
Yes, I think he is legit questionable. But last thing I saw was expecting him to play, but still unsure.
Okay.
But and again, even if he's out, there's not like an automatic turn to. So I didn't see it as it's a thing. Wando Robinson.
It's a thing because I kind of liked him.
Yeah, sure. Wando Robinson, Zay Flowers. I think Jerry Judy's going to play, but those are really I don't really have anything else. Brody, do you have anybody? DK Metcalf is still, I guess, technically questionable, as is Puka, but those guys I expect to play. So pretty much everybody I expect to play.
There's a couple big ones that just came in. Sam Howell's actually starting now for the Commanders, and Jacoby Brissett is inactive.
Well, I knew that.
All the projections had Brissett in, but
no, that was a while ago. That was that was last night. They came through that they Brissett they expected to be out because I got it at like 1 a.m.
Yeah, I know it was expected, but I'm just saying it just came out 25 seconds ago that said he's actually not playing, and Sam Howell will now start for the Commanders in Week 17.
I actually threw some Sam Howell in, by the way.
Yeah, the only other one is I think Jamar Chase is trending towards playing Week 17 against the Chiefs. So,
that's a pretty big one actually, because it was interesting to try to find because I think Mahomes stacks are kind of interesting. So I was trying to find some logical run backs, and I think that would be the most logical, and also a little bit super.
The other thing that came through like last night was that if those didn't see was that Raheem Mostert isn't going to play.
Yeah, I've already got A-Chain in a good portion of my lineups. So yeah, and by the way, I do, like I said, I have A-Chain in a number of my lineups, but I also would say that is a tournament-y play, even though he's going to project really well, because I do think that Jeff Wilson is going to get a number of touches today. So just throwing it out there. I don't think that it's going to be A-Chain full locked and loaded the same way we see Mostert, but I do think we'll see him, obviously more than we usually do. All right, let's get into some positions because there's a lot of stuff going on there. You got Puka in officially. Okay, good. So let's talk about quarterbacks. I'm going to start with you, Sheets. And what are you looking at as far as quarterbacks go today?
1 second. Yeah, as far as quarterbacks go, again, I'll give you in a little, kind of full context. I am playing the 150 as well, and I'm also going to play the power sweep and the spy in the Millie Maker. I'm honestly pretty spread out, pretty much across the board. I didn't really take any really, really big stands, but at quarterback, my highest stone. Actually, that's not true. So I have right now in the Millie Maker like 28% Hurts. And then the only other guys I have over 10% are Purdy, Tyrod Taylor, and Geno Smith. And then the guy I have trending towards, they have two guys that I'm thinking of playing more, and that would be Will Levis and Gardner Minshew.
Well, those are two that crossed my mind as well, although I didn't end up getting to them. What about you, Rody, as quarterback?
Yeah, I like the Gardner Minshew play. I think that dome game's going to be good. You got some lower owned pieces in that game. Yeah, and then I do like who's the other guy that you said in that Gardner Minshew? Will Levis, you said. Yeah, I built a little Will Levis. I like that. I think Hopkins got a bunch of incentives today. I'm starting to look at a bunch of different incentives for people in games. So there's different incentives people are going to be targeting in the last couple of weeks of the season for big roster bonuses and stuff. So I like him. I like a little Jared Stidham too at 4,800. I think that game could be a little bit more scoring than people think. You got some really cheap stacking options, so you can play like Hills and CMCs in those kind of lineups. I like those a little bit. I like Tyrod Taylor's getting a lot of him. He's like the cash quarterback this week as well. In that game. So they're just cheap where I can stack. But I mean, my main guy I talked to was Sheets earlier yesterday on the show. We did Hurts. We talked a little bit about him. I like him as my spend up a little bit more. Brock Purdy is in a good spot this week, I think, against Washington. And a little bit of Stafford I got as well. So those are kind of the guys that I'm rolling with. So
yeah. My highest owned by a good ways is Lamar Jackson. It's interesting because I was trying to figure out what I thought was going to happen, and I think it is going to happen where the cheap guys / Purdy and Stroud get played the most, along with Hurts as the most popular spend up. So I just sort of basically flipped the top 6 or 7 owned quarterbacks and just went the opposite way in terms of my ownership. I like Lamar anyway. I really like that game, and I'm still going to try to attack it. He's a little less appealing, a little bit with maybe a little less explosive, maybe without Waddle and Mostert, but I still like the game a lot. Taylor is my second highest owned. Stroud is my third highest owned, followed by Purdy, Hurts, and somebody else who no one's really talking about much, Josh Allen. I think they have the highest total on the slate. And I understand they've gone to the running thing and there's a lot of narrative-driven stuff. I just would rather be overweight that kind of thing. So those are all guys I have above 10%.
What type of narrative-driven stuff in that?
Just that James Cook with a new coordinator is going to get every touch. Like last week, when they played, it was the Thursday night game. But all you could hear anybody say was, with this offense, all it's going to be is James Cook. All it's going to be James Cook. James Cook's going to have 10 receptions every game. He had no receptions last game. So I don't think it's a guarantee that they don't air it out and beat the New England as we've seen many times. So and also even airing it out, the guy just has the rushing upside to where I'm going to play him.
Well, let's talk about that conceptually for a second, because you brought up Buffalo because they have the high team total. You have Buffalo, Philadelphia, and San Francisco, who are all in the same situation in that they have very, very big spreads. They have very big spreads, and high team totals. So we kind of struggle with this like all the time. Like, do we worry about? I guess blowout risk is kind of the wrong way to put it, I guess, but I guess that is the way I'm putting it. Like, do we worry about San Francisco and Philly and Buffalo, just putting up enough points to, to secure the win and then kind of run out, play out the string? Or is this year, the year where we've kind of just say we don't care about that and we'll just take our 30 points, and just presume that's enough?
I think the latter is for me the right answer. The second part for me, but I think that both you could argue there's certainly something to it. But you look at of all those teams they all need to win, but the Bills really need to win. Nobody needs to win like the Bills do. So you might see the hammer in the first half, even you might see them going if they can move it. The problem is New England's defense has been really good, so I'm not sure that they're going to be able to just move it at will. Whereas San Francisco gets the best matchup. And Philadelphia is obviously in an incredible spot, but at least San Francisco's on the road, and at least Washington has some pieces you can run back, like with a cheap Curtis Samuel or something,
right?
Or Jahan Dotson is no one's going to play, and Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas. I think there's guys because we just know how these Washington games get out of hand. So initially, I would have tried to talk myself into fading Purdy. There's no way I'm fading Purdy entirely at the slate. There's just no way. I think all of those quarterbacks are very appealing, even in the large spreads. But
what happens is that again, people kind of look for those, look for the guys with the run backs, right? Like, you have the Buffalo side, you'll have people that I guess will look to we'll get to these positions, but like Demario Douglas or whatever, Parker, and then these Washingtons again, like we've been playing these Washington game stacks like all year long, pretty much.
Yep.
And quite honestly, I prefer to have Howell in there, for these types of things.
I agree with you, by the way.
So it's going to be it's going to be an interesting day at quarterback, and then with the Jalen Hurts, and we talked about this earlier in the week, that it's possible that he's definitely banged up.
Yeah.
So it's possible that it's not so clear to say, well, when he gets down to the 2-yard line, he's getting a touchdown anymore. It's I don't know.
Yeah, and it's also like there's a little narrative behind that one as well, where they made a joke. Jason Kelce said on his podcast with Travis Kelce that he said that every time, and it's sort of gone viral this week. Every time they get the ball inside they have it down to the 2 or the 1, especially if Swift gets tackled, because I just look at him and say, "I'm sorry, man. Like you're not getting in this one." but there's sort of maybe like a reverse to that kind of thing, because it's really been all over the internet this week, that whole thing. Anything the Kelce brothers do these days, apparently.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of which, we'll get to that in a minute, but I think that we have. Anyway, we'll get to that position. Rody, why don't you start us off with running backs?
Oh, put me on the spot. I like it.
It's your turn.
Oh, running back's easy.
Running back's easy. Yeah.
Running back.
There's a lot of guys here. I mean, Zamir White's the chalk guy at 61. Or I'm on FanDuel here. I switched over.
61 on FanDuel, 51 on DK.
Yeah, he's cheap on FanDuel too, I guess. Zamir White 5,100 on DK. He's going to be like 40% owned. So I mean, like CMC is going to be about 30% owned. He's projecting almost 30 points this week. Very high projection for him. Kyren Williams, a guy that everyone's going to like against the Giants this week. I don't mind a little bit of him. Jonathan Taylor in that dome game, I kind of really like this week as well. I'll get to a receiver that I really like to pair him with late next, but Kamara at 7,500, I really like him in a pace-up game. I think the Bucs are actually got some incentives going.
Really? I got to play out the
Kamara game. I think then people are gonna play, and I'm really hoping he's a good play at low ownership. I like him.
Certainly, no one's gonna play him. I'll tell you that.
No,
Singletary
He's
Singletary for Houston. I don't like targeting running backs against the Titans as much, but 5,600 is a good price. Devontae Swift at 6,500 I kind of like as well this week. I missed Ezekiel Elliott at 6K, getting a lot of work in the pass game and work there. I know it's Buffalo. It's going to be bad weather there, snow mix, freezing temps, but I mean, could be a good game for him at 6K. I like him. Trying to figure out if I had any other ones.
Who do you like the most?
For running back?
Yeah, who do you like the most? You like 12 guys. I mean, who do you like the most?
Kamara. I got mostly
Kamara. See, that's something. You know what I mean? Like Kamara's going to be 0% owned. Yeah. I don't have it in me to play him. That's for sure.
Neither do I.
I do got some Eckler too. You're gonna be shocked. I have Eckler too.
Eckler makes sense.
All right.
But that's interesting. I love it. I love it, Rody, when you take a different stand, because there is literally no way I could get to Kamara, but I think that it's cool that you can. Like I really think that like anything you can get different at running back today because there's so many good plays.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
why don't you go next then, Bobby?
Yeah, we'll go in the order. I have my highest owned right now are McCaffrey and White, because there's plenty of things to do different at wide receiver. Oh, and Kyren Williams. They're all very close. I am going to be way over the field on James Cook, sort of going back to the narrative that we all heard last week, that sort of the anti-narrative that I was just making a case for. The other case can possibly be true as well. The thing that does worry me is that you get Fournette with a couple touches. Maybe you get the next, you also still have what's his name in the backfield. But I think Cook is a really interesting play. I love A-Chain. These guys I all have over 20% of. I had to manually get rid of more Barkley than just because I think that it's okay, but I don't think it's like this awesome smash play. And like, I actually think Taylor could end up hurting him because they may not just go to Barkley all the time as they have been. I think that Taylor's a more competent quarterback by a lot than DeVito is. So anyway, Barkley just beneath those guys, then DeAndre Swift, then Zeke. The guys I'm overweight on, but still are low owners, still don't have a crazy amount of are Henry and Jonathan Taylor. A little bit of Javonte Williams, just Singletary and Connor, but nothing specific. Those are mostly in stacks. My favorite ones in the biggest buy-ins are right now Cook, McCaffrey, White, A-Chain as my 4 highest owned dollar-wise.
So
Etienne is the other one. Sorry.
So, Rody is suggesting that McCaffrey be like 20-30%. I have a feeling he's higher. And I think that more, and then if we had to, again, like this is why ownership is kind of weird, because individually we could it's important to say where the exposure is, but like what do those lineups look like? I think that a lot of the McCaffrey lineups are going to be in like the Tyrod Taylor lineups, you know what I mean? So I mean, if you wanted, so it's one thing to say, McCaffrey's 30-40% on. You can get different if you play McCaffrey with like Mahomes, you know what I mean, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like somehow, you know what I mean? Like, because I do think that of those, say 40% or whatever, that's going to have McCaffrey, I think that an overwhelming number of them are going to have something like Tyrod Taylor. So that's something to consider. Right now, like, I'm going to run everything again, but I right now pretty with the field on pretty much all the running back. Like I have 60% like Zamir White, 25% McCaffrey, 20% Barkley. I mean, I'm trying to think. 3 guys I have over 10%. I mean, you mentioned one of them, Kyren Williams. I guess that's under if I have only 10% of Kyren Williams. Etienne I have like 10% of, and then this is like kind of gross, but I have like 10% of Chuba Hubbard. Just I guess for no reason.
Yeah, that's something different.
I guess for no reason. I will just point out that this is literally the last day you can play Derrick Henry in December. I'm just pointing that out.
I threw him in there. I told you, like I got him 12%.
Yeah. So I'm seeing Tyjae Spears getting a little bit of like
Spears more,
sneaky love somewhere, but that's just not for me. I don't know. Like I said, I don't like the Jeff Wilsons and the Tyler and the Tyjae Spears and all that stuff. The guy that I really think that I'm supposed to get more of, and you said you have like a good amount of them already, is Achane. So listen, first of all, I do hear he's like banged up as well a little bit, which is why Wilson is probably going to be decent.
I agree, but he is.
But all I can say is, man, whenever this guy gets the ball, like you just think he's going to score from 80 yards out. You know what I mean? Like it just seems like a guy that, regardless of what the projections say and regardless of where my builds go, I'm just supposed to get more because he's 6,700, and yeah, he can get 19 or whatever it is. But he can get like 35. You know what I mean? Like he could. Miami plays this style where they play for these home runs, and Achane, like he lines up on the outside. I mean, like I don't know if that's the thing. I don't know if he can do that when there's no Mostert, right? But they like run these wheel routes for him, like isolating like linebackers and stuff. I mean, they try to get him 40 fantasy points. You know what I mean? Like so. Right. So I don't know if he can get it, but I mean he's got. And listen, I love Barkley, whatever, but I think Barkley as a median like certainly projects better than say whoever the Achan or whatever,
Mhm.
and like DeAndre Swift and these other 6,700s and like Bijan Robinson. Take him as an example, right? So he's 6,600, and I have his median very similar to Achan's, maybe a point, whatever. But I don't see a world where Bijan's ceiling is like remotely close to Achan. So I think that in GPPs, I think I really want to force in like Achan's where I can.
Yeah, you had me until the last part because I do think Bijan Robinson has upside too. But I hear you. I actually think
his coach prohibits him from having upside.
Well, the weird part is that you'd think Barkley would have all this up. Barkley doesn't have like the same. Like you need a really good matchup, and the Rams' defense is awesome.
No, I said the upside. I don't think Barkley has that kind of upside.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you a little bit. Like I was trying to make a case that the thing that is interesting with Achan is that this guy's had more than double-digit touches 3 times this season, and he averages the same amount of points per game as the number one touchdown scorer in football in Mostert. So they both average 18.2. I agree though that Achan is the more explosive one to take a shot on there, and even Swift is in a great matchup, and maybe he breaks a couple or something like that. But there's a lot of good running back options.
So before we leave running back, let's get back to this like funnel talk for a second, because there are a couple of guys that I want to just look at again. One of the guys that Rody mentioned Kamara, but Devin Singletary. So what happened to Bobby was I saw just out of nowhere. I happened to see Discord and I saw that that Rody was doing his playbook review or whatever. So I just kind of like hopped on like in the middle,
nice.
And we were talking about it. And the first guy I wanted to ask him about was Singletary because he projects, he's 5,600 or whatever it is, and I think with Stroud there, I think it actually helps him a little bit. You know what I mean? I think the whole offense is more efficient, whatever it is. But I mean, he's against it's a tough matchup for running backs. So what do you do with something like that? I mean, where are you guys getting on? For example, I like Singletary. What are you doing with Singletary, Bobby? For example,
I think I had like 7% or something. It's all right. Like, I mean, look, you're hoping for the pass catching out of the backfield, I guess, somewhat, and the touchdown upside. But yeah, I think I prefer Zamir White. But I sort of got to it where I had to. My thing. I don't like playing running backs against Tennessee, and I actually think that we've seen this matchup. Wasn't this the first time when he was?
Yeah, the last time it was the other guy who was chalk. It was the
it was Dameon
Pierce.
Yeah,
and he scored. He got like 4 fantasy points or something.
Yeah, just I'd rather not. Same thing with Kamara. That's why I'm not playing him against Tampa Bay. Although they've been a little bit more susceptible to pass catching backs this year. So I'm not especially high on him. Even though Rudy, what kind of percentage do you think you'll have on Singletary? Are you going to be above 10%? You think?
Yeah, I mentioned him as one of my backs. I could maybe see if he.
No, just if you thought you'd have more than 10%, I was sort of curious. That's sort of about where I expect him to be.
Yeah, I'm somewhere around there probably. Just a little less maybe. I don't have over his ownership probably.
I got two. I want to spend a little more time on these running backs for a minute because so I guess I'll ask both of you. Do either of you have any interest in the guys I won't play like the double Pittsburgh guys like Warren and Harris? That's one I want to ask you about. The other one is Javonte Williams, and the other is the guy who got all of the Kyler Murray comeback work, and that would be James Conner. And this is going to be a very similar game script, I think. Do either you like the Pittsburgh running backs or Javonte Williams or maybe James Conner?
Definitely like all sub like 5% for me,
okay.
If at all. It's Javonte. I have a little bit more of.
I like Javonte too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that. But
I wonder again. Like if we could talk about this forever, but like when you have a situation where like the quarterback is, and I like your Eckler play by the way, Rody. But like when you have like a quarterback that's out, and you have like Stidham or whoever it is, it just seems logical that you'd want to just like give the running back like all these opportunities. But don't you think that the defense is just going to totally stack the box against him, like in situations like that? So that I guess it's more of a football question than anything else. I mean, like, are you worried that in situations like that just the defense is going to sell out on him and it's not going to be so easy?
For you're talking about for Javonte?
What about Javonte Williams? Because
I don't think that there's any real difference between Russell Wilson and Stidham. To be honest, I actually think there might be a better case because Javonte Williams has projected well all year and has not had one game. I don't think that you've actually wanted him. So maybe there's more upside for him here, and maybe you get more dump offs. That would be one thing that Wilson doesn't dump the ball off to the running back very much. That's my take anyway.
I'm not worried about it. I think that game shoots out a little bit more than the total. I think it goes over, but even though I'm wearing a Chargers jersey, or sweatshirt, but they had some weapons, like even their backup tight end Kroll and Brandon Johnson we'll talk about here in a minute, but like they both got touchdowns last week, so like they're going to be throwing to these guys. So, both defenses have had some really bad games this year, both Chargers and Broncos. A couple of them might have been playing a little bit better lately, but I think it could be just some more offensive today, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right, let's move over. I'll start off the wide receivers. So my highest on wide receiver right now is Tyreek Hill. I actually think you can play Tyreek Hill and McCaffrey in lineups together if you want to go that route. And I don't mind it.
You have to have a Stidham or Tyrod Taylor probably, right?
You most likely do. You don't necessarily. I mean,
no.
You could do some other stuff. There's tons of cheap wide receivers. Cedric Wilson being one of them on the same team, who I currently have too much of, and I'd like to get less. So I'll probably turn that into more Quentin Johnston, more Michael Wilson, more Rondale Moore, more what's his name? Obviously Darius Slayton. There's just a lot of these cheap guys you can take shots on this week. So I'll probably do that. I'm overweight, so I have too much Douglas right now. I don't want to be with this chalky Douglas play, so I'm going to probably get less than that. Hopkins is the next one I really like, and I've got him about 30%. Marcus, again, Wilson, Slayton, the cheapies, Rondale Moore round out the next part of it for me. And then I have Nico Collins, Curtis Samuel, Rashid Shaheed, Zay Flowers as my favorites. But most people are not going to be spending up on wide receiver other than Tyreek. So I am probably going to force in Mike Evans and some other plays after we get off here, because I think that everyone's going to have a natural, we play one of at least Kyren Williams or McCaffrey, and then you're going to sort of be forced into different types of price tiers. Whereas if you spend up at wide receiver, while you do have some cheap running backs you have as options, any little thing you do that's different would be spending up on these receivers, because you look at the ownership on them, and basically, other than Tyreek, it's mostly going to be the cheap guys that I think feel like Demario Douglas is currently projected to be the highest owned player at wide receiver. Wan'Dale Robinson looking really popular. Rashid Shaheed, as I mentioned, Michael Wilson, Curtis Samuel. So spending up at wide receiver is certainly going to be something a little bit different. Maybe use some of the San Francisco guys if you want to do that as well. Sheets, what do you got at wide receiver?
Yeah, it's interesting that we have very, very similar. I also have way too much Demario Douglas. My current build has like 40% of him, and I don't want that.
Saberson was trying to make me play him no matter what I did. I kept trying to put a max on him. They wouldn't let me max him.
They won't. And it doesn't matter whether you use this contest sims either, by the way.
Yep.
I'm trying. And then if that's not as tilting as if that's not bad enough, I'm like, you know what I could do? I could just force him out and pivot to Devontae Parker. Mm-hmm. And then I'm looking at my ownerships, and he's going to be over 10% owned.
Yeah.
And I have him currently at 15%. Now I don't have that game stacked, right? I don't have anything with a quarterback. They just have both. I have just kind of cheap one-offs to make other stuff work. You mentioned Hopkins. He's one of my top owned guys. Flowers, I have him one of the top owned guys. Samuel, you mentioned him. So I'll just throw the other two that you didn't mention, I don't think, that are in my top 6 right now. And one is Terry McLaurin at 5,500. Same reason I like Curtis Samuel, but just 1,300 more. That's all. So I do like him, and I doubt that 6% ownership is reasonable. I think he's going to be higher, but that's where I have him right now.
Wait, for who Sheets?
For McLaurin?
Oh yeah, I kind of see it though, because it's a weird
range, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
But I like Hopkins, like you said, and the other two were, I don't know if you mentioned Devontae Adams. But if you mention that it's possible that you might consider paying up at wide receiver, to get a little different. I think I think this is a good place for him. I mean, he's also gets some pretty natural leverage off of Samir White, which helps. So I do like that. And the other one I mentioned early on when we talked about the injury report, and that would be Michael Pittman. I don't know who's exactly going to him at 7,500. Like I said, it's a slate where you're really supposed to, try to find cheap receivers. But that doesn't mean that you have to, right? So I'm getting like 15% Pittman right now, and the Q tag certainly helps his ownership stay down a little bit. Those are my top owned guys.
Yeah, I really like that Devonta Adams idea. I think that's something I'm going to get some exposure to for sure. How about you, Rhodey, at wide receiver? I know we talked about a lot of stuff, but what do you have along the
Devonta Adams was a guy I was going to talk about, like really low ownership, projects really good this week. So I like that. I like Pittman. Him and Pittman are up there in the projection, right there behind Tyreek Hill. Obviously, Tyreek Hill's above them, but like they're right up there with them. So I like both those plays this week. I like trying to get either like that Rams instead of Kyron Williams. I like to stack Nakul or Cooper Kupp with Stafford a little bit in a couple lineups. I like Nico Collins this week for Houston. Zay Flowers, Brandon Ayuk for the Purdy with Purdy.
You know what? There's one guy that we have to talk about.
Okay.
And I was going to save some of these for later for like win the Millie stuff, and I have one for that as well. But Cortland Sutton is out. So I know that it's whatever, but there are guys that, not to mention, there's like Brandon Johnson at 3,300. You know what I mean? Like it's
damn, Sheets, you just didn't let me finish, man. I was just gonna get to these guys.
Oh, sorry about that. I was gonna say usually when the top receiver's out, you're supposed to play somebody. But okay, I'm sorry. I'll let you finish.
Yeah, I actually just built a lineup that might be my main lineup with Brandon Johnson and extra correlation. Okay. So I really like that. Brandon Johnson's one at 3,300. I finally got my brother earlier convinced that he's a good play. Got a lot of 5 targets last week. Got a touchdown last week. No Sutton this week, so they need to throw to somebody. Shaheed, I like at 4,600. Even Jacoby Myers, if you don't want to play Adams, 5,300. Got a lot of work last week. Josh Downs at 5,400. I like. You could play the Wan'Dale Robinson again at 4K. You got Demary Douglas at 4,300 that you guys want to get lower on. I don't mind getting lower on him. The 4 you got. You can go back to the Michael Wilsons or something for Arizona. Everyone talks about those 3K guys too. Rondell Moore, Michael Wilson at 3,600, 3,500. If you want to run it back in the Hurts stack. I prefer not to run it back, but I mean, one of those guys I hope does something. And then you got Devontae Parker, like you guys mentioned, is cheap off of Demario Douglas. So I mean, I'm kind of sticking with some of those in my stacks. I didn't mention Zay Flowers and Hopkins. I like a lot. I actually got those mid-tier guys in my main. I like that build I just built. So.
I want to throw out something just about those because we talked about. I mentioned a ton of cheap receivers, and what Steve said about the Denver is true. And you possibly get a bonus because Marvin Mims is questionable too, which just opens up even more. Goodness. The problem is the Chargers actually have the better value, I think.
Okay.
Quentin Johnston is 3,700. He's in the wide receiver 1. So I like that. I like that better than I like any of the Denver guys. I think I like Jalen Guyton and Erickson just as much, if not better than the.
I should have said Guyton. Yeah, I forgot him on the Chargers.
The Chargers are missing their top 4 wide receivers, and they actually throw the ball to their wide receivers some. So I'm gonna take some. I'm gonna take the Johnston, Erickson, Guyton, take some shots on those guys, and I will take some on the Denver guys. But I think that's what I'm gonna do is pivot some of the early Devontae Parker stuff. Some of the early. I think I have too much of the Wilson and Moore and all that. I think I'll switch it up to a little bit of that later game. Also gives you a little bit of adjustability because, like, if Mims is out, I think Brandon Johnson is going to look like a much better play than he does right now, and so will little Jordan Humphrey.
So some of the projections remove Mims. I don't know if there was news.
Yeah, it depends on where you look. Some have them and some don't. Some
I just seen that on the recent updates.
Yeah,
those are 4:00 games.
We got time.
The Denver Chargers. And speaking of which, one guy that we didn't mention who, I thought he was going to be one of the most popular guys on the slate. I'm not getting too much of him now, but I was earlier in the week. And that was Rashid Rice. From Kansas City.
My brother likes him today.
I don't know. Listen, this is why that you take stands at running back, or not even take stands. Like you almost want to play, in my opinion, like kind of like the easier running back plays, because there's so many receivers, and you're like, duh. Have you not played DFS for 16? Obviously, but every time we do these shows, and we're running through these receivers, first I'm like, look, why are we giving all these receivers? And the fact of the matter is, there's just a lot of them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them that can outscore the other ones. Like the 20th best guy can outscore the first guy in receiving, unless you're Tyreek Hill. You know what I mean? And that's just the way it is. Where running backs, you just who's outscoring McCaffrey really? You know what I mean? Like somebody could, right? But not the 20th guy. You know what I mean? Like maybe the 5th guy, but not the 20th. And that's why you get 3 receivers. And excuse me, 4 receivers, right? If you want. So that's why we have to go through all these guys.
I wanted to ask about Cedric Wilson for Miami.
He's my highest. That's what I said. He's my highest owned receiver right now, and I'm going to have to pivot off of that. I understand that it's a reasonable play. There's no reason with all this value that he should ever end up being my highest owned receiver. That's going to go to these other guys too. But we've got a million guys to switch him over to. For a minute, partly when I did my hand builds, I thought that I just assumed that game was the afternoon big game of the week, and it wasn't. So I was like, I just wasn't thinking so I ended up with way more of it, thinking, I can always swap over. But
this is nuts. That even that New Orleans, you mentioned Olave, but the other guy from New Orleans is cheap.
It's really tough. You gotta decide whether to take some stands, and maybe the simplest answer is playing Tyreek Hill and then mixing in the cheap guys.
And you know what? And Tyreek Hill, as you guys know, I mean, I've been off of him literally all year. I mean, I've played him in a total of probably 10 lineups out of 1,500 this year. I just never get to him. And today I'm getting 4%. So it's gonna be another day where the guy goes back to pass and Tyreek Hill is breaking into the open field, and I'm just hoping that the first touchdown for 80 yards is not enough to beat me.
Right. The good news is at his price, he needs a couple of those. So
yeah, exactly.
At least you got that working for you. You need him to CD Lamb it last night. By the way, what's crazy?
That's just ridiculous. He's just
very quickly about the construction last night because I actually I was kind of pissed off that we lost Williams on the last drive, because if he got a touchdown, the lineup I had him as captain was actually my best lineup because I had the nuts everywhere else, and you were able to fit them all in. So I needed one more touchdown. Didn't quite get there. Still made money, but it was just funny.
I had CeeDee Lamb in 40% of my lineups, and I lost as captain and lost money. So what can I tell you?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. The weird part is that the nut build was almost not to have him as captain, even with all the points. All right, so tight end. Why don't you start it off, Rody?
Oh, sorry, I was working on something.
Or sheets.
Tight end today. Kind of interesting a little bit. You got Trey McBride there. He's a good run back in that for the Philly game if you want to stack Hurts. But I mean, you got Kelsey, which he's been talking up outside. That he's due for a big game. He's been really. I'm not getting as much as him. I really, really think I should be. He's due for a 3 touchdown game one of these days. Ingram, he's been getting a lot of work, but we don't have Lawrence there. Kittle's the guy that I'm really hoping banking on today for my big best ball lineup today. So I like him at 5,600. I like Gerald Everett. He's 3,500. He's kind of the cash one today for run back in the Chargers game you could go to. But Dalton Schultz is one that I really like. Houston today, he's got a bunch of big bonus incentives. He's getting a lot of ownership, but I think he's going to be a good play in that game. Dallas Goedert's another player I like a lot with pairing with Hurts. Isaiah Likely gets a lot of work from Lamar, dump offs and stuff. I really like him at 4,600. And Cole Kmet is active, by the way. It just came.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was going to ask you.
He was dealing with something. I just want to say he's active for today.
That's a good one.
So he's in at 4,700. Nakua's good to go. Zay Flowers good to go. Those all just came in if you guys were wondering.
What about Pittman's good as well?
Pittman active as well. Yep, that came in just now too. Murray's active. Jacobs won't play. Yeah,
so everybody's in. All right, fair enough.
Hunter Henry's inactive though for the Patriots. I know that's a big one for you guys.
Well, I had a lineup with him.
Yeah, Oh, there is a healthy scratch for the Bills. Von Miller's out for the Bills in week 17.
Who is
that? Gives you a little bit more wanting to play Elliott.
Who did you have say was out?
Von Miller
Oh yeah.
Bill's healthy scratch for defense.
Ugh, I think the Elliott thing is such a gross play, but I'm gonna probably end up with a tiny bit of it. It just feels like there's so many better plays on this slate than to play Elliott.
I know.
Then to play who?
Ezekiel Elliott.
Ezekiel Elliott is like a machine out of the backfield now.
As what? A 2-yard machine.
No. I don't mean running. I mean getting targets.
The targets is what people want to play him for. Yeah.
Yeah, you're playing him for the targets for sure.
What's become of him? You know what I mean? That's what we're playing him for. You know, it's like crazy.
Well, it's more what's become of the quarterbacks for a team that can't throw the ball downfield. That's at least my take on it, because I think there's something that's like. It's not like he's playing like well with these things. You know what I mean? To catch 9 balls for like 30 yards is not like some kind of, what did he have? I don't know. He might have had more than 30. But I'll have a little bit of him just because of the pass work. But all right. So tight end, I do have Everett currently is the most, but very close between he, Schultz, and Likely for me. Likely has a lot more to do with. I think he's an easy guy to pair Lamar with. You could play Flowers or him. Goddard, Cade Otton, who no one's going to play, Darren Waller, Trey McBride, Kelsey. Those are my main ones, and I'm mixing in a bunch of other guys who I'm not going to.
I think tight end is another one where like the 20th guy can beat the top guy. I mean, first of all, I don't even know who the top guy is. You know, so it's like Kelsey. I mean, he certainly hasn't done
probably McBride would be. Oh, Kelsey and McBride would probably be the.
Yeah, Kelsey hasn't done much recently, but I mean, he's still Kelsey in a game where we've talked about. You know, they're going for that one. Goddard, you mentioned Everett. You mentioned. Okay, well, we'll have this. We'll say this every week. He's going to project well. He's going to show up in optimals, and Okongwu is just not going to get there. That's the way it is. But you know, what do I know? This week he's 10% owned instead of the 20 that he has been. So
because they're all playing Everett.
Because they're all playing Everett. But I mean, who's to say that Schultz isn't as good or you know, Kittle Likely, right? I mean, I presume you're playing Likely, Bobby, if you're playing Lamar.
Yeah, he's
I mean, what's wrong with Freiermuth? You know what I mean? All these freaking guys are decent. I'm sure that Waller will get some ownership, you know, with all these Tyrod Taylor lineups. I imagine they're out there. But yeah, I think tight end's another one where you don't have to go too bananas. But McBride 5,900 looks these tight ends that are 5,900 look expensive, and then you see what happens when like you see like Sam Laporta just racking it up down the field. You know what I mean? Like these guys that are like legit like wide receiver 2s on their teams,
right?
You know, and McBride more wide receiver 1 actually. Just you know, and Kelsey for years. You know that these guys can just look like wide receiver 1s on the field. You know, so as opposed to like Chig and even not like Waller. Not he used to be able to be like that, but not anymore. You know. Anyway.
Yeah. I love Everett for what it's worth. I think he's actually my favorite, but it's just the ownership I have to play. I can't just play the chalky Everett, but I do think that he makes a lot like the most sense. You saw how much he got targeted in a tough matchup last week, and gets a perfect matchup this week. So, all right, we can move on to. Oh no, Roddy, did you mention yours?
Yeah, I did tight end.
Sorry. All right, defense, real quick. Look, this is so stupid. I don't even want to announce what my highest owned defense is. I'm guessing that maybe Rhodey knows. It's going to change, but right now it is the Commanders. I am doing the 2K thing, which just feels so stupid. But every now and then, look, we've gotten Purdy a couple times this year. Maybe you get the weird pick 6 game or something. I don't know. But it's really just a pricing thing. Other than that, I have the Panthers, Rams, Patriots, Texans, Bills, and Denver and Chargers, and those are most of my defenses. Sheets, what do you got there?
Yeah, so as usual, my mantra is I don't really want to play more than 20% of any defense just because of the way results distribute. Unfortunately, this week I'm not even being pressed into it. Like just running things normally, like my highest owned defense is like 13%.
Nice.
You know, and it's like just spread out all over the place. I literally have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 defenses like 10% between 10% and 13%. You know?
I love it.
And these are the guys I think you mentioned already. Broncos, Colts. That's different, I guess.
Yep.
Broncos, Colts, Bills, Rams, Giants, Texans, Ravens. Really, just whatever you want. I mean, really, like I have no real strong opinion. I'm not really getting too much of the Commanders, but we've just seen too much this year. You know what I mean? Like, and the last 4 or 5 years, what happened? The tip balls and this. I mean, you get one tip ball and a 2K. You know, a 2K defense is like optimal. You know, it's
Right.
it's just nuts the way that it gets scored. That's all.
Yeah.
What else? You know, as I'm mentioning this, actually, you know, I'll let you talk about your defenses, Brody. Then I have another comment.
All right, yeah. I'm pretty much in line with you guys there. I got mostly got like I have the Giants the 2,500 I like them cheap. But Commanders some like Bobby's got. Broncos 2,900, Chargers. I like the Ravens a little bit this week. Even the Dolphins I had 2,800 is a decent fit price for me. And then I got the Rams are good. 49ers are pretty good. Like all the I mixed it up. I got a little bit of the high end ones too. So Panthers I like a lot this week at 2,700 as well. So
So I'm going to throw two things out there that we didn't talk that I forgot to talk about. One, it's like a team that I had earlier in the week, like a lot, and I'm getting like 0 of them now, and I'm going to have to change that. Okay, and that's that Chicago Atlanta game. We talked about that earlier this week, Rody, right? The other day, and I was like, it was like my top owned stack, and for some reason, things have just changed where I'm not getting to any of it, and so I think that I want to get some of that. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I want to stress one play that we made and just overall game environment. So Indianapolis, they've been involved in some freaking wild games, like all year and last year, whatever it is. It's in the freaking dome, and you have a chalky Zamir White going into this game. I think this Davante Adams thing and like the passing game of the Raiders in general, even like maybe Jacoby Myers or whatever it is, I think that this game can really just go bananas. Now, listen, it wasn't exactly the same the way it happened, but the Raiders did put up a freaking 60 ball. Like, you know what I mean? And I think it was like 2 defensive touchdowns also. But nonetheless, I think this Davante Adams thing is a really, really good play.
I actually agree with you about that a lot. But just to give you, and this is just it's not like it's the most horrible weather you've ever seen, but the total has dropped in Chicago by like 5 points this week.
Oh, well, that's it then. Okay, that's why I'm getting it like that.
Yeah, that's probably what happened earlier in the week. I do like Drake London still, and I do like DJ Moore a little bit, but also both Moore and Kmet are playing injured is the word.
Okay,
so
fair
just
enough.
Keep a little bit of an eye out. That's my only comment. Although I have some of that game stack, so I don't want to say like, oh, Bobby won $1 million and he told Cheeks not to play it. I don't want to hear that. Oh, actually, I do want to hear that because that means I won $1 million. but just want to be good for it. All right, Cheeks, what is your hot take, and I'll go after you, and then we'll let Rody take us out of here. Rody, you have a hot take.
So I don't know. It just dawned on me who's gonna score 40 and win the slate. Okay,
Who's that?
There's going to be DJ Metcalf. That's going to be the one.
DK Metcalf. Oh, okay.
That's going to be.
Yeah, that's I kind of like the Metcalf idea. So
I literally just as I was going through my receivers, I had like 2% or something like that.
Yeah.
But I just saw it. I just saw that I was thinking of guys. We think about A-Chain, like just guys that could just put up 40. Just guys that could just go ballistic. And I think that he could go ballistic. Certainly not the greatest matchup in the world, to say the least. But that's just what hit me. Other than that, get the cheap wide receivers right as usual. And of course, the ultimate troll for me is going to be when Michael Wilson gets 30. Today that's going to be.
Well, it feels like a pretty good spot to troll too. I have to say, I think he's going to. Not get 30. He's going to get something.
That's definitely possible.
I'm playing a ton of them, so I guess that's sort of my take. Is that two of the 3K-ish receivers will be in the winning lineups. If not, it'll be a Beckham, and then I think Lamar is the quarterback in the winning lineups. That's my overall take. Brody, take us out.
Yeah, those are good takes. I like the Vegas Raiders take, the Davante Adams take, Michael Pittman game. I really like that game. So I talked about that. So I got Adams listed in my playbook as well. So, and Pittman. So.
What do you got on how about other sites too, if you didn't mind? If you're playing FanDuel, you have any specific take over there?
Lamar Jackson's should be higher owned, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, Lamar and White and Zamir White.
Yeah,
Zamir White's gonna be popular on DraftKings, but 6,100 actually translates kind of to FanDuel.
Yeah, way good on FanDuel. Even Elliott at 6,400 over there's not terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see anything crazy. Achan's a good price over there too. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't see much
Nothing crazy.
crazy stuff.
All right, take us out of here, Rody.
All right, you guys good? Happy New Year, everyone, and let's kick off the start of the year with someone in here winning $1 million. All right, let's go. So as always, guys, let's get it.
Let's get it. Happy New Year, everybody.